Welcome back to Guna Pavilion, and what an incredible night at Champions League football. We're going to be doing the preview of Arsenal versus Wolves and Gunners. Let's just breathe. Breathe. Villa Park, strong, yes. And Champions League has just lifted the mood, and I hope a lot of Arsenal fans are feeling a little bit better after that 3-0 performance against Club Brugge. But here, guys, let's put things in perspective. Arsenal have lost just 2 Premier League games all season. We're still in the title race, and then there's this Wolves match, right? And this is going to be another reset button, for the Premier League. But there are things that are going to be interesting in this game, and the numbers behind Wolves' season is so strange, guys, so lopsided that this game tells you everything about Arsenal mentality. So let's break it down properly. Let's go into this game, and I'll tell you, some of the things that Arsenal may need to be wary about, but more importantly, why this is the perfect get right game for Arsenal. Let's go. Okay, let's start with the Arsenal narrative. After Villa, I told you guys that the narrative is going to be straight on. Arsenal are wobbling, they're bottling it, title charge is slipping. But if you just take away the emotion, you just remove the emotion from, what's going on, and put things into context. Arsenal have had lots of injuries, and I know people don't want to hear that, but it is a fact. We've got 2 league losses in 16. I think that's good going. We do need to clean up the draws that we're having, and I think that's the one thing that you can kind of say we really need to do better, because City they're either winning or they're losing. They're not drawing. I remember last season it was the draws that killed us. But we still have one of the best defensive records in the league, still among the top 2 for goal difference, still controlling most matches. And listen, it would be expected that when you go against Villa with no Gabriel, no Saliba, Timber forced into center back mid game, it was always going to be a challenge. And I don't think there's an identity problem with Arsenal right now. I think it was just a squad availability problem. Champions League midweek matters too, because it's about rhythm as well. And listen, December football is about who can sustain control. So Wolves is simple. We just need to respond in the Premier League, and that's it. Now, are Wolves really a bad team or a team that has bad luck? When I was doing a research, into this game, I was looking into Wolves and looking at, what they've been doing and why do they look the way that they look, and why are they at the bottom of the Premier League. They're really, really struggling, and their underlying numbers, tells a very, very strange story. So when you look at their goals versus expected goals, they've actually scored much less than the expected goals. So the coach should be looking at that and be thinking to himself, maybe there is something here that I can actually do, to get this ship turning into the right direction. They're 12.9 in expected goals, and they've only scored about 7 goals. So only one team in the league has finished chances worse, right? So for me, Wolves, if they get into scoring positions and they start to convert a little bit better, things might start to change in terms of what is happening to Wolves. Now, in terms of goals conceded, again, another strange stat. So, and they've conceded about 29 goals, but they're only expected to concede about 20.5 goals. So it just tells that, when things go wrong defensively, it just snowballs, right? And errors are turning moments into goals, for Wolves. So they have a base where they're not necessarily a bad team, but they're just having one of those very strange, sort of performances in the Premier League. I mean, their away form, this season has been terrible. They lost to Newcastle, 1-1 draw to Spurs, lost heavily against Chelsea, and then another Aston Villa was a 1-0 scoreline. And their away record overall, 0 wins, 1 draw, and no clean sheets, right? The one thing I did notice about Wolves is how they concede. A lot of their goals are coming from first-time crosses into the box, cutbacks, and second balls inside the box, which leads, to the obvious question, right? So if they can take all of these things out, you know, can they improve in terms of what they're doing? Now, I'm hoping that they don't do that against Arsenal, but these are some of the things that I'm sure that Wolves are also taking note of, and they'll be looking to get better at. So expect, a setup to actually deny Arsenal making crosses into the boxes, to try and protect their box and try and stop people from getting in and scoring goals. Now, they changed their manager, and sometimes, that makes a difference, right? Um, you know, can he improve the organization? Can he improve the energy and shape? Which you can see that they have improved. The only thing that is still waiting to get there is the results, the finishing, and the defensive resilience under pressure. I mean, you're talking about, Aston Villa, where they actually lost by a single goal. Now, this is the same Aston Villa that Arsenal really struggle with. Same with Newcastle, they lost by a single goal. So it does tell you that, there's a lot of things that Rob is trying to do. They're not just getting the results yet. And it just shows that, the structure helps, but it doesn't fix, the gaps overnight. And maybe, this is where Arsenal can take advantage, because I think that potentially, if they can address some of the areas that I've talked about, Wolves will become a problem. There are areas where I think that the match is actually going to be won and lost. And the first is going to be Arsenal's wide overloads against what Wolves will be doing in terms of their defending in the box. And we're playing at the Emirates, so I expect us to heavily get a huge dose of Saka in this game. That Ødegaard-Saka combination is going to be important to release Saka. Now, there's questions to be asked and the decisions to be made by Mikel Arteta with regards, whether Noni Madueke comes into the game. I mean, Eze was rested. So I do expect him to come back and start, this game. And maybe this is another game that he builds on his form, as well. But, Calafiori, galloping and making cutbacks and White underlapping. I think we might see a lot of that in this game because Wolves do concede from those exact zones. And I think there is a big mismatch there between Arsenal and Wolves. Now, in the middle of the pack, I am going to be expecting Rice and Zubimendi to come back in there. And I think, based on the most recent setup where Wolves lined up with 5 in the midfield, I expect Wolves to apply the same tactic against Arsenal. And then perhaps one might come back in because I think he's a lot more energetic and he's had some joy against Arsenal in the past. They're gonna look for disruption, direct balls into the box, wide deliveries to Strand Lawson. I think Arsenal is gonna have to look out for that, and they're gonna want to create as much chaos, in the box, especially around second balls. So Arsenal are gonna have to really keep that in mind. And Rice and Zubimendi are going to be crucial in this game in terms of, why Rice stopping the balls to Ødegaard, especially in transition, and just cleaning up when Wolves, try and go over the midfield. Because I suspect that even though that there are 5 in the midfield, they're not going to play through the midfield. They're going to try and bypass the midfield and use this 5 almost as a rest defense to prevent Arsenal from transitioning against them. So Zubimendi receiving under pressure is going to be important. In the last game, I looked at his numbers and he wasn't that impressive. This is one area that he always strives in, receiving the ball under pressure. He didn't really do that against Aston Villa. So I'm hoping that he gets back to his ways and what we know him for doing. But listen, Wolves concede a high volume of chances inside the penalty area once they're stretched. But they are dangerous when games are frantic and they struggle when games are controlled. So Arsenal need to stamp their authority on this game very early on with a couple of control passes and controlling the game so that Wolves, can actually, start to lose belief in terms of this game. A couple of quick goals would also be important. Important because it's about the psychology. This game is not really about the opposition, it's really about the psychology. It's about Arsenal getting back on the horse and winning another game to take away the bitter taste from Aston Villa. So I know we've talked a little bit about tactics, but this is all about answering one question. Do Arsenal respond like a title team? Can we start fast? Can we kill the game early? Can we have emotional control? We will learn a lot, from this game, I would say, in terms of how Arsenal, perform. If Arsenal go ahead and score 2, 3 goals, then everything is back to normal and we can start to look at the December fixture and see how we can get the maximum points at the end of the month. But in terms of the predicted lineup, guys, I'm going to go with Raya in goal. I think it's White, Timber, Hincapié, and Calafiori are going to be in that back four. It doesn't seem to me that Saliba is quite ready to start a game yet. So I think that'll probably the back 4 and 5 that goes. And then, of course, you've got Rice, Zubimendi, and Ødegaard. I expect that midfield to come back again. I know Rice was left out of the Champions League game, but I think it was something that we all wanted, as well. And I think this time around, it might be a case of, I don't know. I don't know if Gyökeres is going to start this game, but I think this would be a game that Gyökeres starts. Be a game that Gyökeres starts, especially if Rice cannot go. Maybe Merino plays in this game, and you have Gyökeres starting, and then you've got Saka and Martinelli, playing. I think that there is still a need to protect Trossard as much as possible. So I don't expect Trossard to start this game. Martinelli coming off his goal to start. And it'd be a shame because Madueke really deserves, to play in this game. But hopefully he can come in the game and have lots of minutes. And then, of course, you've got a bench impact from Eze, Madueke, and Nwaneri if he does not start. Okay. Guys, I don't want to overthink this. This is just in terms of the score prediction. We're back at the Emirates. We're facing the weakest away attack in the league against a side vulnerable exactly where Arsenal thrive. I'm going to go with a 3-0 minimum. Arsenal 3-0 to Wolves. I'm going to be at that game. I'm going to be at the Emirates, enjoying the hospitality. So I'll try and see if I can, get a few videos, a few clips, and we can talk about. So I might be doing my 3 ups and 3 down, on my way back from the stadium. So that will be interesting. But guys, there's no need to panic. We had a game that we didn't win. These things are going to happen. It's going to be a very, very long season. 2 losses don't define a title race. It's about how you respond. So, guys, drop your predictions below. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, guys. I really appreciate all of you who watch the channel. Share this to as many Arsenal, fans as possible. Let's grow this channel and drop your predictions below. Who starts up top for you, and what do you need to see to believe again? And of course, win, lose, or draw, we break it down in the 3 ups and 3 down post reaction. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next one.